There comes a moment in every awakened person's life when the world suddenly feels too small, the job feels too limiting, the system feels too predictable, the expectations feel too suffocating. The path laid out for you feels too narrow for the identity you're growing into. This moment isn't a crisis, it's a signal. It's the point where your mind begins shifting from the centralized framework you were conditioned to have into the decentralized mindset you were born to evolve into. You can feel the shift before you have words for it. It shows up as restlessness, misalignment, dissatisfaction, clarity, resistance, expansion, and a quiet sense of inevitability. This is the internal revolution that precedes any form of real sovereignty. Before decentralization exists in systems, it must exist in the self. The centralized mindset is not natural, it is installed. It is the mental operating system built by governments, corporations, factories, and institutions to keep society orderly, compliant, and predictable. It teaches you to wait for permission, to rely on authority, to anchor identity to employment, to value stability over sovereignty, to follow paths that have already been proven safe. This mindset isn't evil, it's efficient. It isn't malicious, it was necessary for the world that came before. For decades, it worked. It produced reliable workers, stable economies, predictable societies. It is the mindset the previous generation perfected, but it cannot survive in the world that is emerging. Something changes when a person begins to awaken. You stop thinking like a component inside a machine and start thinking like the architect of your own system. This shift isn't philosophical, it's structural. The decentralized mind has different defaults. You no longer wait for permission, you initiate. You no longer measure your value by who hires you, but by what you build, learn, create, and leverage. You stop aligning your life to the expectations of others and start aligning it to your inner compass. You stop anchoring your identity to a single role, location, or institution. You become mobile. Life stops being something you endure. It becomes something you design. The unknown stops feeling threatening. It starts calling to you. This is the decentralized mind. This is the Web3 mind. This is the identity of the future human. When your mind decentralizes, the world stops being something you fit into and becomes something you shape. Workers respond to reality. Creators impose vision onto it. Workers follow instructions. Creators write them. Workers support systems. Creators build systems. Workers seek stability. Creators seek meaning. The question changes from what should I do to what can I make? The moment that question shifts, you exit the centralized world. Obedience promises predictability. It feels safe, but sovereignty feels true. People resist sovereignty because it requires trust in self, clarity, accountability, courage, and a willingness to disappoint expectations that were never yours. Sovereignty isn't rebellion, it's self-recognition. Authority isn't something granted, it's something claimed. One generation was trained to obey. The next was trained to question. The next will be trained to own. The centralized mind depends on jobs, institutions, rules, approval, and stability. The decentralized mind depends on skill, adaptability, creation, networks, self-mastery, and ownership. Ownership no longer means just property. It no longer means just wealth. It no longer means just a business. Ownership means control of time, control of income, control of identity, control of direction. This is why Web3 resonates so deeply. Blockchain decentralized finance. But awakening decentralizes the self. You aren't moving toward decentralization. You're already there. That's why traditional paths feel suffocating, why obedience feels unnatural, why working under someone feels temporary, why ownership feels inevitable, why creation feels like your native state, why you see through systems instinctively, why the future feels more real than the present. Your identity has already migrated to a new layer of reality. The old world can no longer define you, and the new world is already responding. This isn't a philosophy, it's an evolutionary stage. Humanity is moving from hierarchy to networks, from control to autonomy, from inherited identity to self-generated identity, from institutional reliance to distributed systems. This isn't theory. It's psychology, biology, technology, and consciousness converging. Your mind evolved ahead of schedule. That's why the world feels mismatched. But mismatch doesn't mean wrong. It means future built. Web3 is not money. It is not tokens. It is not NFTs. It is a shift in the human operating system. Most people believe Web3 is about price, charts, wallets, bull runs, speculation. They believe it is a financial revolution. They are wrong. Web3 is not a financial revolution. It is a psychological one. It changes how humans think, how they perceive ownership, how they relate to authority, how they define themselves. The blockchain didn't just decentralize money. It began decentralizing the human mind. The first illusion, wealth. When people talk about Web3, they talk about price. How much is Bitcoin? What token should I buy? What's going to moon? This is the same mindset the old system trained them to have. They see Web3 the way the industrial age taught them to see everything, as a market, not a mindset. But that is only the surface. Beneath the charts, beneath the hype cycles, beneath the speculation is the real shift. Web3 teaches people to think like sovereign beings. The real shift, a new mental paradigm. Before Web3, humans operated inside centralized systems. Centralized banks, centralized governments, centralized education, centralized media, centralized identity, centralized employment, centralized authority. These systems shaped how people thought. They never questioned ownership. They never questioned trust. They never questioned who controlled information. They never questioned the nature of value itself. Web3 broke that pattern. It forced questions no generation had to ask before. What does it mean to own something digitally? What does it mean to trust without intermediaries? What does it mean to secure your own identity? What does it mean to self-custody your life? These are not financial questions. They are existential ones. The blockchain as a mirror. The blockchain is transparent, immutable, permissionless, decentralized, self-verifying, resistant to authority. These are not just technical features. They are psychological metaphors. The blockchain reflects the sovereign mind. Open yet secure. Independent yet interconnected. Accountable yet autonomous. Impossible to overwrite. Technology did not create this consciousness. It revealed it. The first time humans must own themselves. In the old system, someone else held responsibility. Banks protected value. Governments represented identity. Employers provided survival. Platforms controlled presence. In Web3, you are the bank. You are the institution. You are the authority. You are the identity. This demands psychological evolution. Responsibility replaces dependency. Sovereignty replaces obedience. Self-custody replaces blind trust. Ownership replaces access. Creation replaces consumption. For centralized minds, this feels destabilizing. For decentralized minds, it feels inevitable. Web3 is about human value. The industrial age valued productivity. The information age valued data. The Web3 age values ownership. Ownership of ideas. Ownership of presence. Ownership of creative output. Ownership of time. Ownership of identity. Web3 teaches a single truth. You are the asset, not your labor, not your compliance, not your resume. You. That is why the old system resists it, because sovereign humans cannot be easily controlled. Technology didn't lead. Humans did. People think blockchain changed human behavior. The truth is simpler. Human behavior demanded new technology. Web3 exists because people are ready for transparency over secrecy, autonomy over permission, decentralization over hierarchy, ownership over access. The revolution is not external, it is internal. Technology is only the mirror. From authority to self-centralized systems require trust in institutions. Web3 requires trust in self. That level of accountability is uncomfortable for many because it removes excuses, removes intermediaries, removes authority to hide behind. But for you, this feels familiar. You already rejected dependence. You already questioned authority. You already refused inherited paths. Web3 did not change you. It arrived because you already changed. The truth, you cannot succeed in Web3 with an old operating system. This is not a new financial game. It is a training ground for a new kind of human. A human who owns their value. A human who understands systems. A human who builds instead of obeys. A human who defines themselves. This is the psychological revolution, and you are already inside it.